Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of T.N.T. Garage and Performance. Now I know we've been covering a lot on this truck lately, but there's still plenty to do. Any project, no matter what you do, how new it is, how old it is, how perfect it is, you're always going to have something that pops up. Now, we got this thing just good enough to go, where it's safe enough, run well enough, and all that, so my son could take it to his first day of school. And then, of course, I wanted the truck back because I wanted to go through a few things and make it right. And that's the key with any of my projects. Eventually, they'll be right. They'll take a while, but they'll get there. So I've got a big old list of stuff I have to do. We're going to start with the valve cover gaskets because these Mr. Gasket valve covers that are on here don't quite fit the rubber Velcro gaskets very well. So they're leaking out the back sides of the valve covers, down the heads, and driving me nuts. So I've got a set of Mr. Gasket cork ones, but take what you can get. Then we're going to move on into the brakes. Now, no, it needs a soft line up here. It's not bleeding right. It's hanging up. So I'm putting a new soft line, and we're just going to replace the caliper, even though I did take this one apart at one point and rebuild it. Which I might throw that little snippet in there on how to blow those apart and rebuild them. Got to adjust the rear brakes because they're doing next to nothing. I know I had to work the drums off. The shoes are in good shape. It had a good ridge on the drums, so I'm going to clean that up, adjust the brakes out, make sure we're good. Then going to clean the wheels. I picked up this set of T.N.T. wheels, which I found out are vintage and out of production. I think they give the truck a nice little 80s kind of, Miami Vice slash late Smokey and the Bandit vibe. Then we're going to move into some just here's and there's. I want to move the tack from the A-pillar to the dash. Now, I'm not going to drill in the dash. Don't worry, I've got an idea for that. I got a rear bumper I want to put on. It's actually straight, put new wipers on it. Then we're going to move into the transmission. Now, from day one, I was really not happy with the way this transmission was shifting, which I had pulled out of that car, which is an 87 Camaro and would have had a 700 R4 in it, but the trans had been replaced. I ran the numbers. Turns out this 700 R4 is actually a 4L60, not an E. It's just after I think 91 or 92, they changed it to the 4L60. So that's a 92 4L60, which is actually a good thing because it's got the auxiliary valve body. It's way easier to deal with. I believe they have a little bit upgraded clutch packs, a couple more frictions and steels in them. I believe I read that somewhere. I'm not a big GM transmission guy. I'm a Mopar transmission guy. So we got that, and then we're putting a Corvette servo in it along with a shift kit and fixing the shift linkage so we can make it snappier. So I think that's a long enough intro on everything we got to do, so let's get to it. Alright, so where we're going to start here is getting these valve covers off because I am tired of the leaking on a new motor. It's driving me absolutely bananas. So it's making a mess. Get tired of cleaning this engine bay. Yeah, you probably can't see it on camera, but there's actually oil on the firewall. They're leaking that bad. So the valve covers clearly aren't, the gaskets aren't sitting like they should in the covers. So we're going to fix that. Another thing too with these actually really nice valve covers is they don't give you a really good sealing solution when it comes to the bolts. They're beveled into the valve covers, so I just use some O-rings for temporary fix. And the problem is they get hot, cold, and they start to crack. So I've got an idea for that. I'm gonna try. A lot of people use like Teflon washers, but it's really hard to do in a beveled surface. So let's get our bolts out of the way here. See if we can actually get the valve cover up and out. Yeah, you could see she was oil all the way. It's actually leaking at the top of the valve cover. Look at that. You got oil all up in here. And these they just really don't fit that well in here. You know, they move around, and this is different enough that it pushes it out. So we're gonna go with the Mr. Gasket ones. Oh, and also this gives me a chance to check out my valve train, make sure everything's good. We ain't got nothing loosey-goosey, no wear, no metal or any of that stuff up here. So that is good. Excellent. All right, we've got our gasket in there, little RTV just to hold it in place. Hopefully it'll stay put, and we can go ahead and slide this in there, and I'll show you the idea I have for the bolts. Almost too slippery to hold with one hand. There we go. Get the old meat mitt on it. Okay. Check around the back, front. There we go. She's on. Now, what I'm gonna try with this valve covers, I picked up some fiber washers because these are beveled and they don't come with seals to go in the beveled area of the actual valve cover. So I got these fiber washers, and I'm just gonna hit them with a little bit of silicone, get them coated, and we will toss them in, and hopefully that does the trick. You know, I think that might work. Get those out of the way. That vacuum line I really got to hook up for the HVAC so it's not flopping all over the place. Alright, now when you're dealing with these tall valve covers, especially with the longer bolts, you want to get them tight, but you don't want to break them. These are pretty easy to break, so just kind of snug them down, work your way around until you feel safe. Sorry that I'm clearing my throat so much. I don't know what's going on today. I'm going to pull the breather out. It's not huffing oil out of the breather, so that's good. Alright. I think we got her. I don't feel a gasket puking out anywhere. Alright, we're going to move to the other side. before I put the valve cover back on, I want to bring you in here and show you something. If this doesn't work where these don't seal, I'm going to go to perimeter bolt valve covers. Now that's the beauty of these AFRs, is they're dual drilled for center bolt or perimeter bolt all the way around. They're also dual drilled for intakes. But it's a good thing I decided to dig in here, because there's a witness mark right there that we're losing a header gasket. So I'm going to make a run to the parts store, pick up a couple header gaskets and some copper spray, get a new gasket put in here while we're at it. I got to add that to the list. So I'm going to slam this valve cover back on. I figure I'll get you in nice and tight as I can here. I found some header gaskets on my shelf. I did pick up some copper spray though, so let's just see. Oh, those are 7/16. Let me grab a different wrench. I thought they were 3/8. Let's just see if that, yeah, that wasn't really tight, of course. The only problem is, like how that one wasn't very tight, sometimes you could snug them up and fix a leak, but looking at that, I think we're already blowing it out, and it's worth pulling the header out to know for sure. I love header bolts. Now, we're going to go ahead. This is a little heavier duty unit, but I'll show you a couple tricks. Okay, you want to make life a little easier on yourself? Make this so it drops in. A lot of exhaust gaskets are like that, and I'm sure this is a trick that everybody knows, but in case you don't, what you want to do is you want to notch your bolt holes on the front and rear. It's like that. See, like that. You don't really want to take too much material out, but it should be fine. This should help prevent a little bit in the future as far as header leaks. Alright. This is just a Permatex copper sealant spray-on. Works really good for manifold gaskets, stuff like that. Actually, I've seen it used on head gaskets in a couple applications. One on a, what was that, a 30s or 20s Chalmers car that just reused the original head gasket. Just, you know, blow apart, put back together, a little bit of this on there. And back in the day, LS guys would take stock head gaskets, spray it with this when they went to boost them. And it seemed to hold up. This is some good stuff. So just want to give it a decent coat. Make sure you get your hand too. That's a critical part. Try to get as even on here as you can. And on the back side. And let that set up for a minute or so. Just kind of layer down while I get a couple bolts in. Okay, one thing I did as well to help me here, because the exhaust is still hooked to it, and when I say exhaust, I mean glass pack bolted to the collector. So I put a floor jack underneath the collector, which really helped me out in this situation. So we're just going to stuff 2 bolts in. Oh, yeah. And of course, I slid the header too much, but come on. There we go. Nice thing about having a master cylinder here, you can put your face on it so you can have more leverage. Just like, oh, that's starting to hurt. All right, I think I got it. Okay. Yep, there we go, I think. Oh, we'll push the jack in a little bit, see if we can't drop our gasket in. Now, our gasket. Work it down. And there we go. Dropped her in, didn't wipe all of the copper off of it. That's why you let it set up for about a minute or so. Now we can go ahead, start putting bolts back in. And tighten all of them this time, that would help. All right, we're gonna get working on the soft line and a caliper. And this is why I really love engineers, because the brake line comes across here and it goes through the frame into the soft line there. So you got to take the line off to even get to that. So see what we can see down here. It's around here somewhere. My wrench will hit it. There it is. The nice thing is, this truck has leaked enough oil in its past life that I think it saved this brake line. Oh yeah. Look at that. Really don't get that lucky. I don't know how well you guys can see, but there is a brake line back there. Well, all right, let's top this wheel off. I got the soft line free, which, by the way, not fun, just so you know. But I'm gonna grab the jack, get her up. All right, pop our hubcap off, which ought to be fun. Oh. There we go. All right. Now I know what you guys are thinking already. Got spacers on that? Don't worry. I had to run spacers for a couple of reasons. One, better stance. Two, around here it's really hard to find anything with a 5-on-5 bolt pattern other than stock wheels. So I went with 1.25 inch aluminum spacers, bolt-on, which now when you're doing this, when you're putting spacers on, remember, you need to Loctite the threads and you need to torque them. That's the only way they're safe. I've run them before on a lot of Jeeps I've built, and they've been fine. Not worried about them. But let's go ahead and get this stuff torn apart. We're going to pull the line out, which, by the way, the line is held into the frame with a 24 millimeter like stamped steel nut. So get yourself a 24 mil, get in there, you take that off, pop the line out. But let's tear this apart. All right, let's loosen the caliper before we pull our banjo bolt off. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. All right, what size is that banjo bolt? Bet it's bigger than this. No, it is a 7/16. Ow. There we go. Get our banjo bolt off. Oh, we're taking a bushing with us. I guess you'd come along for a ride. There we go. The pin. There we go. Now, looking at these pads, you could see something was sticking, and I doubt it's the slides because we lubed them when we put them together. So let's grab our caliper. All right, we got our new brake hose, which that's probably a 13 that holds the old one on there. Now, here's some square body trivia, tech, whatever you want to call it for you. So when you're looking for parts, especially for your half-ton square body, make sure you look in the glove box first to figure out what brake code you have, because there's JB1, JB3, JB5, and I think JB7. This truck is a JB5, so it's heavy-duty brakes, which equates to the thicker rotor and a different caliper. So I ran into it before, which is why I rebuilt this one, is because calipers I bought on hand, I didn't think about it, and they were for a JB3, which has a thinner rotor, and we could not figure out why the calipers wouldn't fit on. And the only reason I'm replacing this is just in case, you know, maybe there's something in a casting causing it to stick, but I did pull it apart and rebuild it. And here's our new one. Ooh, it even comes with pins and pre-lubed and everything. Anti-noise clip, we don't need that. Oh, comes with a banjo bolt even. How about that? So, this is our JB5 caliper. And, you know, these brakes are so simple. Just 2 pins, hold them in. Make sure you lube the pins. Make sure you lube where your pads slide. So, we're going to pull this one apart. And if you're looking for a size to get these pins out, it's a 3/8 hex or Allen. Now, this, I'd say this is optional, but it really isn't. When you're putting together brakes, you want to make sure they're lubed properly so they don't hang up, they don't squeak or anything. And a lot of these will have an anti-squeak pad on the back. But I just use this Permatex ceramic brake parts lube here. You don't have to go crazy with it. Just, I always put it on the mating surface of the pad to the caliper. Drop a little on my finger there. And again, where it mates to the piston. That'll eliminate squeaks with your pads because they are going to judder a little bit in the caliper as you're going down the road. And you also, the slides, like here on your spindle, just a light coat. Don't get it on the rotor. There you go. And then again, you lube your pins, but these are pre-lubed, so we don't have to worry about that. Oh, please fit. Oh yeah, that is a much better fit than the last caliper I bought for this truck. There we go. We'll go ahead and slide our new pins in. There are bushings. Oh God, oh, there's the other one. Just about introduced itself in a real bad way. All right. Go ahead and send them home. I much prefer these old style pin slides instead of just bolting the caliper on with the two-piece calipers, you know, because complicating things more. And I've seen guys, especially on Fords, because they use newer Fords, so like the Dick Nose Fords and beyond, which would be 97 up, they use a really coarse thread bolt on the caliper bracket that holds it to the spindle. Those, make sure you put plenty of Loctite on them, because I've seen guys just slap them back together and then 100 miles later those bolts back out and the caliper goes through the wheel. So not really much of a problem on these slide pin style, because there's a lot of material that would actually have to walk out before the caliper drops off. But anytime you're dealing with like a bolt-on bracket, use Loctite. See, our caliper's sliding free, so that's good. Now, actually, this has 2 new copper washers. Come on. All right. And of course, whenever you're doing a brake line, make sure you have new copper washers. I've done it plenty of times where I didn't replace the washers and didn't have an issue, but they're cheap. Just replace them. So run this underneath where the old one went. There we go. Get it started. Now I'm going to grab a socket so I can pop the old line off. It's a 1/2-inch bolt holding the line to the control arm, and I'm sure it'll snap as soon as I try to take it apart. So just remember, never spray anything, don't pre-lube, none of that. Just, yeah. Oh, that's a 14mm socket. What am I doing? Hold on. All right, with the proper socket in hand, let's get this. Oh, that's good. You want it to crunch and strain and groan when you take them off. Lets you know you got a strong bolt. And once you know it, it's a through bolt. Oh, where did I set my wrench. Hopefully it's this. Oh, isn't this just magical? Alright, I need to get the right size wrench because why weld the stud to the control arm? Okay, so this mounting bolt is also a 13 mil on the back side. So, if I can get my fingers up in here. There we go. There. Oh. Give me a minute. Well, got the old brake line off, a new one installed. And the reason why I couldn't get my wrench on here is this little tab here that locates it in a control arm that keeps it from doing this, even though it's bolted, was in the way. I had to take the chisel, beat it down. And this is the kind of stuff that makes me think that engineers were bullied in high school by the jocks or the gearheads, and this is how they got their revenge. I mean, what better way to screw somebody than, well, let's put this in a way, or let's use a through bolt instead of a stud, or let's run the brake line through the frame. Yeah, so if you're an engineer out there, I want to tell you something from the bottom of my heart. In the 10 years that I worked on vehicles professionally, and as I do now, I hate you all. And sincerely, every mechanic ever. So, anyway, back to the project. Got our brake line on, we got our caliper on, we got it tight. We just need to put that nut on the back side, reconnect the line, and then we can move to the back and adjust those drums. Alright. We know we got to adjust the brakes because that turns way too easy, but we also have a lip. So let's work the drum off. Come on. Getting there. There we go. See, there's quite a bit of rust. And our spacer fell out here. We'll fix that short order. But the shoes look decent. Really gotta beat that lip down, which it looks pretty clean. I mean, we got a couple grooves in the drums. Ain't much we're gonna do about that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna hit this and clean them up, get them flat again, so we don't have that ridge that's catching. And hopefully we will be able to adjust these if the star wheel adjuster isn't locked up. So I'm going to grab some stuff and we're going to dig in. Alright, I got my air grinder out. What I did was just do a little resurfacing on the shoes. I got rid of those upward bump grooves. And what I'm going to do now, which yeah, you probably shouldn't grind brake shoes, but there's plenty of meat here, just knocking that down so I can slide the drum off easily. And then as far as this rust slip, we're gonna do a little machining on the drums. So I think we got our rust slip taken care of. I'm just gonna go and kind of beat up the inside of this because it'll self. And then I always attack the mating surface. Get it turned up. Make sure you breathe all that in too. That'd really open your lungs up. Now, I know we should put new drums on this because as deep as those grooves are, we're probably out of spec to have them turned. But have you seen the prices of brake drums lately? They're 74 bucks a piece. I remember when they were like 25 bucks. And I think what happened here is at one point this had a different style of brake shoes on it, that the friction material was riveted to the shoe, and they just ran it down to that and kind of destroyed the drum. But if we get them evened out, we'll probably get some good wear out of them. So before we go ahead and do all of our adjustments, we're going to slide our bar back in here with these incredibly mangled spring. Yeah, we didn't need that whole thing anyway. But jam our spring back in here, or our crossbar, whatever you want to call it, spreader thing. Just get in there. Yep. There we go. I'm gonna grab my brake tools and we'll get this popped in. All right, now when you're dealing with drum brakes, I have some tools. These are for the retainers for the drums, and this is a pair of spring pliers. You can hook a spring, drag it off. You use this end to grab your springs and turn them off, and you use this to put them back on. Now, do you need specialty tools for drums? No, it just helps a lot. So I'm gonna pop this retainer. It's a lot easier with tools like this. You can get by with vice grips and screwdrivers, but having the right tools makes the job a lot better. So we're gonna just come on, just a little more. Get it in there. There we go. We got our spreader bar in. I don't know why that fell out, but I'm just not gonna look for any reasons and put it back together. Yeah, just as I thought, our adjuster is seized. Oh, yeah, I probably could get a hardware kit for this, but there's a way you can clean these up, usually. A little bit of heat, maybe a little bit of force. So let's attack this star wheel adjuster so we can actually adjust our brakes. All right, so we got our adjuster free, just a couple of vice grips, and always put the second one down towards here. You don't want to crush the threads. And one side is reverse thread and the other side's not, but this one, now that I broke it loose, is actually spinning quite freely, which is good. You know, you could throw anti-seize on these, brake grease, whatever, but you just want to make sure they turn free. Hit them with a wire brush. But this one seems pretty good. I'm just going to put a little bit of brake grease on the threads. Anti-seize works as well. I prefer brake grease. But we'll run this all the way out. And we'll just dab a little grease down in there. That way she'll go in nice and smooth. That's so much better. And also put brake grease on this end, because that's where this spins on top of. So make sure that spins freely. Throw some grease on there, and you'll be set to go. Okay. So now, here. Our adjuster's in. Get our pin back through. Our retainer tool. I'm not kidding you, these things are a lifesaver. You can get them from Matco, Snap-on, probably get them at Harbor Freight. Invest the money in them. There's 2 different sizes. They are worth every penny. So, center your drums, and we're going to see where we're at. Slide in the drum on and off. So that is way too loose, and I'll actually put the truck in neutral because I have the tires blocked so we can get an actual feeling for it. Oh geez, ouch. Yeah, that is nowhere near enough. So just whatever you can do. We're going to adjust these out until I can barely get the drum on there and turn it, and then we'll know we'll be good. Yeah, I guess we got her a little too tight. That's a little less. Well, now that we got the brakes bled, which by the way, if you're doing this by yourself, you can gravity bleed, which does so much, or you can take your bottle of brake fluid, put a hose in there, put that on a bleeder, just make sure you're down in brake fluid, open the bleeder, pump the brake, you know, half a dozen, 10 times, and go corner to corners, right rear, right front, left front. And then top your fluid off. So we're going to take this for a test drive and also take her down to the coin op with a little bit of gunk and get the oil leaks and stuff cleaned up so we can really get a good look at her. Well, we're here at the coin op. Let's get some stuff and spray her down. Tip number 1, if you want to leave after you get done, you're going to want to cover your distributor, especially when you're doing kind of any high pressure engine washing. And also, if you got a paper air filter element, don't get it wet because they don't freeze wet. So stay. So just a plastic shopping bag over the distributor will do the trick. Oh, if I can reach it. Oh, short people problems. So work it over the distributor the best you can. Oh, put your cleaner back on, because of course you don't want any water down the carb. And I find that when it comes to gunk, the original does the trick. So we're gonna get all that crap. Gonna soak the whole firewall. We're gonna get the booster. We're gonna make this look nice. Yeah, open header or exposed headers. Probably gonna create a little smoke, but go ahead and just soak all the areas you need to get, which includes the cross member. Gonna get underneath and get on the oil pan and the rest of the cross members. Get up by a fuel pump. That way, if we produce any new leaks, we know where to find them. And I'm going to get underneath the back and get back to the oil pan. And our starter. All that. Trans pan. The other side. Now while that's soaking, we get it running. Alright, pull the bag off. Hopefully she fires back up. Well, there we go. Kind of let her sit here and run a little bit. Dry that stuff off so when you're on the road, any of the steam coming up doesn't alarm you, make you think you're on fire. Alright, now we're gonna clean up these wheels. Got the engine cleaned, fixed the valve cover leak, still having an issue with the dipstick. That's easy to take care of. I had a problem with the factory dipstick, so I tried something else. That didn't work, but at least we know that we've cut the leaks down and there's just one more to take care of. But onto the wheels. So to get these clean, you see they're rusty and all that. So grab yourself some SOS pads, a little bit of water, and a bunch of elbow grease. Kind of dig in there. And we'll watch this area. See how that rust is just going away? So just work your way around the wheel and get all that, and this will work on any chrome wheel like this where you're getting rust pits through. just attack her with some SOS and just keep going, rinse and keep going until you're happy. Well, we got two cleaned up, so here's kind of a before. Just real rusty, covered, yada yada. Here's a little bit of after. I think they look just a little bit better. Could have a little bit of polish thrown on them, make them really pop, but I think it turned out pretty good. Alright guys, clearly I have run out of daylight. After getting the wheels clean, doing all four, getting them looking good, just ran out of daylight today. And I also took some time to honor those we have lost on September 11th and to salute the bravery of the 343 firefighters that gave their lives just so they could save some others. Now, we did get some stuff knocked off our list, actually quite a bit. We got valve cover gaskets done. We got the brakes done on this corner. We got the rears adjusted. We got everything bled. The brakes are done. I think they're good, ready to go. We cleaned the wheels. Obviously stuff got added to the list. Fixed the header gasket. Fixed the power steering return hose that was leaking. I also found a return hose on a fuel pump leaking. Took care of that. It was a bad clamp. So what's left to do? Well, the trans stuff is going to show up in the morning. So we got all the stuff to put the shift kit and the Corvette servo in the transmission. And I got to fix the dipstick, which is not a big deal. Make sure shift linkage is good. And I want to move the tack and do the rear bumper. But, well, I guess you guys are just going to have to wait to next week for that. I'm going to, of course, do all this work tomorrow and the next day. Maybe do it in a little nicer shop than my driveway. But until next week, hopefully this gives you a little taste. Kind of like that. It's pretty good. Make you come back for more. So next week we're going to tack the transmission. We're going to get this thing shifting perfect. I really think it's a combination of things. I might have a bad accumulator spring. I know my piston in the bore for the throttle valve cable is getting sticky because this thing's starting to shift erratic, and I know it's not wear because I just had the pan off and it wasn't full of metal or clutch material. So this transmission sat for years, and you stick it behind 400 horse. It's time to pull the pan back off, check everything out, put some upgraded parts in, get her going. But like I said, that's for next week. But I think these wheels look pretty cool, cleaned up. The truck drives a lot better now, especially now that you could stop. And yeah, so if you're watching this, I thank you for coming along on the ride, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can find me at T.N.T. Garage or Performance on Facebook, and I finally figured out how to change it on Instagram. So it's T.N.T. Garage and Performance on Instagram as well, and of course here on YouTube. So until next time, which will be next week, where we finish going around this entire truck and getting every nut and bolt dotted and every line crossed. Look, we're gonna get her. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be perfect, because mainly I'm getting this truck done as quick as I can so my son can take it to homecoming, because he's got a date, which means I also need to add a partition between the driver's side and the passenger side. So we'll get at that later. So until next week, thanks for watching, and remember, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is.